Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us again today. Well, today we're going to be having a quick look at the Reflex by FN. This is a nice little pistol here that's in the micro compact deep concealment department, designed to compete with things like the Hellcat, the SIG P365, and many others. Does it have the features that you need? Is there any reason you would consider the Reflex over one of those other models? Well, we're going to try to answer those questions and quite a bit more in just a minute. All right, once again, welcome back. Thanks for being with us today. If this is your first time coming to the channel, or if you've watched our videos before and just haven't had the chance before now and you like our content, please consider subscribing. You can do that by locating the little subscribe button in the lower hand corner of your screen there. Or if you're on a mobile device, you can just scroll down below the video and hit subscribe that way. It's a simple thing that helps out a whole lot, and we really appreciate it. So, the Reflex from FN. Every time that a new gun gets released from these guys, I'm liking it a bit more. Up to a few years ago, I didn't own any of these pistols and didn't really have a lot of interest. Like a lot of people, I'd kind of started my collection with certain brands and kind of stayed there. Had a lot of SIG and a lot of HK, and I still do to this day, but I really was hesitant to get away from looking at other pistols until I started expanding, of course, doing what we do here every week. Well, they seem to be coming to the plate with good quality and good options, and the more of their options I see, the more I like them. So, of course, we always like to start off with a little size comparison. I mentioned in the beginning, this is designed to compete with things like the Hellcat. So I have a Hellcat here that we can kind of set down. And, if you look at them, they are very, very, very close in size. I mean, any little slight differences they may have is going to be negligible here. If you look at the width, very, very close. You can see the length. The sight pictures, very similar. They do it a little bit different, but very, very similar sight picture. And they are very similar in their total length as far as from the grip to the sight. So, another good example, I mentioned besides the Hellcat was 365. I have a number of those, but I just happen to have this one handy. This is my little Romeo Zero. And once again, ignoring the optic, of course, because that gives a little more headroom there. But if you just look at the two guns side by side, you can see once again, very, very, very close. The width of the firearms and the length, I mean, almost identical. And the main reason that we do this is a lot of people have got a chance to be familiar with at least one of these popular brands, either the Springfield or possibly the SIG P365 or one of the others. And if you've carried one of those and you've handled it, that'll give you a pretty good idea what it's going to be like to carry this. All right, we're going to get into the features here, but before we do, we're going to take just a moment to thank our friends over at Don's Weaponry for providing us this beautiful example of the Reflex by FN. Don's Weaponry is a huge supporter of firearms safety and education, and we can't thank them enough. So, of course, we'll do a quick safety check as usual, get our magazine out, and let you see that we are clear there, nothing in the chamber, and we are as safe as can be. So let's start with those magazines. So the one I took out is the standard magazine that holds 11 rounds. They do make 10-round magazines for states that require that, so you can get those as well. This particular kit has got an 11 with the little pinky extension on it, and then in addition to that, they give you a 15-round with the larger extension. Now, personally, I'm always trying to go for the smallest I can get away with as far as the grip, just because when you have this in the holster, this is what sticks up the furthest. Usually what's touching your body is usually the end of the grip. So a bigger magazine is something that's going to be a comfort issue. Now for me, even with my pretty big fingers, I get a pretty good grip on this firearm with just the pinky extension. So I like it. Now granted, if you move to the other magazine here, you have, basically a full-size gun grip. Big fingers are no problem for this. And of course you gain the extra capacity. So if capacity is important to you, this is definitely going to make the grip feel a little more like a larger gun too. So, you know, do what makes you happy, but those are your options. So we're going to start at the top like we normally do here. If you look straight down, you'll see you've got that bright orange ring there on the front sight. They call this 3-dot iron sight setup. The front night sight has a tritium insert with that visibility ring to, they say, to aid in low light sight acquisition. Okay, and then you get 2 dots on the rear. Has a PVD finish, which is supposed to really last a long time. Got some pretty good serrations here on the front and the rear. Of course, you've got your takedown lever here. These are pretty simple. When you have the slide locked back, you can simply rotate that takedown lever and then release and push this forward. And of course, then, you know, once that's out, you can take out your spring and your rod. So barrel can come out after that, and then you can do your cleaning pretty easy. It's a very easy setup, very common style of takedown. And of course, your slide lock and release here, I showed you that in the beginning. And that is just on the one side. Your trigger, we'll talk about more about this trigger when we get to the range section, but it is interesting to note that this is not a striker-fired pistol. This is, in fact, an internal hammer, single action only pistol. So it feels very much like a standard striker-fired pistol, but it is an internal hammer, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. You do have a small rail here, so if you have something compatible with that small accessory rail in the front, light laser, whatever, you can do that. You got your magazine release here, and it's in a pretty good spot. This is typical to a lot of the newer FN models. It's in a good place. I never feel like I'm going to accidentally hit it, but it gives you pretty good access. This is reversible. If you wanted to mount this on the other side, you can do that. And then, of course, they always do a very good job to me with this texturing that they put on the front and on the rear. And they use this little fine pattern on the side. I think it feels really good. As a matter of fact, one of the things that, you know, kind of pushes me toward one way or the other, if the pistols shoot the same, if they have the same features, just comfort, overall comfort is not a small thing with me. You know, we were talking about the other models. In some ways, I kind of like this little notch here underneath the trigger guard that you have on 365. It feels like there's a natural place for my finger to sit. But at the same time, it also feels a little weird because the rest of it doesn't feel the same. So, you know, it's not bad. And then once again, talking about the Hellcat, it has indentions as well. So when you're holding it, even if it's just these 2 fingers, they have a place to go because they have that little finger indentation there. Some people, that's a big deal for them, being able to feel that. It's more of a positive feel. And of course, if you're going with the FN, it's, you know, straight across. That doesn't bother me, but it is a different kind of feel. So it's definitely something you're going to want to consider when you are picking this firearm out, say, between the others that we mentioned. Okay, so let's talk about the Reflex's day at the range here. I got a chance to shoot this when it first came out, and I wanted to review the gun back then. I didn't have a chance to, but I got to shoot almost half a day with this gun several months ago, and I have to say that I had a lot of fun with it. And my expectations were pretty high because every time FN comes out with something new, because I'm getting more and more attached and I'm really kind of getting an interest, getting invested in FN. I really had high hopes for this gun, and I think it met those. So just talking about it, let me take this mag out again. Let's see that we're safe before we get going here. The trigger is first thing to talk about. I mentioned in the beginning that it's kind of different. It's an internal hammer, single action only. It's advertised as a 4.5 to 5.5 pound pull. Consistently with my scale, I got about 5 pounds. So you got a lot of take up here, and then you can see it engaging the trigger safety in here. It has several internal safeties as well. But once you hit this wall, the minute you hit resistance, it's a very small travel through that 5 pounds. I mean, you're there. And then you come back out, the reset is about what you'd expect. It feels about the same as on these other small pistols, even like a small Glock. It's a very familiar feeling reset. And like I say, when you shoot it, the trigger does not feel at all like an internal hammer. It feels like you're shooting a striker-fired pistol. So if you had any reservations about the gun because of it being internal hammer, if you were even aware of that, then you can dismiss those because you can't feel any of that at all. It's a really good trigger. It's a very accurate little gun. It doesn't take boxes and boxes of ammo to start producing good results on paper with this. You can be a new shooter and do that. I got my hands on this initially months ago. When they were very, very first able to get released. A colleague of mine had one, so during a range day I got to shoot his extensively. And I wanted to review it back then, but I wasn't able to. But it's a very good shooting gun. Now I tried both setups. Now I will say this much. For carry purposes, it's a lot more comfortable for me to carry it with the smaller magazine. But as far as the range, it was definitely easier to shoot the gun with the bigger magazine. With all my fingers, on that larger grip area, it was a lot easier for me to shoot this gun well. Now I could shoot it well the other way. It just took more practice for me to get consistent. I think I'd still carry it this way no matter what, just because I want the smaller magazine. So, of course, everybody wants to know, is it picky with ammo? Nope. Not so far. It gobbled up the regular range ammo, the FMJ here by SMB and by PMC, 115 grains, no problem there. Defensive rounds, hey, no problem. The Spear Gold Dot 124 grain, it likes those just fine. I never do a test on a 9mm pistol without using some Zig V-Crown just because I like it. They don't pay me a dime to talk about their ammo, so this is personal preference. I always like to try the 115 and the 124. The 115 is usually the one I shoot the best, and that was true again in this case. And the way I test that, just in case you're wondering, I will shoot multiple magazines of different types of ammo. And I'll do it in different order. It's not like I'm going to shoot all the 115 V-Crown first and then shoot all of the Gold Dot. I'll mix up those magazines. And my overall accuracy with each type is what I base it on. And so that's just a little FYI there. So it's reliable. It's pretty comfortable to shoot. A little easier to shoot if you have the larger magazine in there. But it doesn't wear your hand out like a lot of small 9mm pocket pistols that I've shot before. So this is something that has good range performance, and I think I'd be comfortable carrying with me because it does seem reliable, and it gives you that self-assurance factor when you carry it. Well, you've heard me mention a lot of times when we're talking about smaller pistols, if I can pocket carry a pistol, I will. And this is right kind of on the borderline of the kind of the biggest thing that I can pocket carry. It depends on what I'm wearing. If I'm wearing some big cargo shorts with big front pockets or something like that. So as big as this is, I went ahead and tried this with a couple of different ideas. This little VersaCarry holster right here. They make some really good stuff. I really love the way they do this foam on the back. You get a lot of breathability, and the build quality on these things is really good. So if I'm going to use a holster like this, something like this with a single clip is something that I like to go for. This is a great little holster. You've got that little piece at the top there. It protects the body from the side of the firearm. I tried one of these VersaCarries a year or so ago, and I liked it so much I ended up ordering a lot of them. And I got a lot of different kinds of holsters, but this just seemed perfect for this Reflex. And like I say, it's a single clip, so if you have a good belt, and that's one thing I was going to mention, you can have the greatest holster in the world, but if you have a thin, scrawny belt that's going to move or bend, it's going to be very frustrating. So make sure you have a belt that's thick, that has enough strength to keep the gun in the position that you want it to. You don't want it moving around a lot, and that's just for any setup, not just this. But for the purposes of this test, like I say, once again, I use this little VersaCarry. Extremely comfortable. The gun's very lightweight, and it was as easy for me to carry this as any micro compact that I've carried before. I can easily see this as something that's going to go into my rotation. I just like a lot of things about the gun, but it's very easy to carry, very comfortable. Overall impressions of the FN Reflex. I think it's a great little gun, and I will tell you why. Of course, this gun is designed to compete against, things like the Hellcat and the 365, as we mentioned. And some people would say, well, maybe they're late to the game and, so they're kind of out of it. Well, that's not necessarily true. It can be good to wait and see what the competition does so you can end up giving people what they want when you finally release your version. I think they were smart about that. This is a popular size. This platform right here, around 6 inches, a barrel a little over 3 inches, like this is a 3.3 inch barrel, 6.2 overall length. This kind of size has become very popular. They also know that people have different ideas around capacity. You got people like me that are more minimalist, then you got people that want to carry the larger magazine, but they don't have to buy it. It comes with the gun. So I think FM was smart in how they did this. They came up with a gun that shoots well, it's made well, it feels very solid, and it's not picky with ammo. And as I mentioned before, accuracy, reliability, and comfort are huge considerations for anyone's carry gun. I think they've done that, and they've done it pretty well. So this has a retail of around $600. They do make another version, the Reflex MRD, which does have an optics plate on it. I believe it's about $60 more for that one. Which, of course, compared to the other models that have optics cutouts, that's about right, too. So I think FN has placed themselves in a good area monetarily as far as what they're charging for the firearm. And I think as well as it works between the accuracy and the build quality and what you get for your money, I think it's something that's worth a serious look that for anyone who doesn't necessarily like the other options that we've mentioned, or maybe they're just a fan of FN. They want to see if FN can offer them something that's effective as a micro compact so they can kind of keep all their guns in the same family. Whatever your reason may be, the Reflex is a great choice. It's a good shooting gun, and it's definitely going to be in my carry rotation. I can tell you that with absolute certainty. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. As always, we thank you so much for being with us. We'll be back soon with another video for you. So until that time, everybody please stay safe and have a great day. Thank you.